TikTok, it's time to rock. Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. We have a special guest here, a special show on the channel. Folks, if you're not familiar with Jonathan, you'll be familiar with him a little bit, I hope, when he spends a little bit of time with us. Jonathan, it's a pleasure, and greetings and welcome to the channel, brother.
Hello, thanks for having me on.
Fantastic, it's our pleasure. And look, folks, I've told you this many times before in the past. Organising and getting people onto shows, Jonathan's never an easy thing, mate, because this world that we live in is a big world, Jonathan. So organising times and days and dates, it's not easy, brother.
No, especially at the moment.
Yeah. So it's a pleasure having you on. Taking some time out of your busy schedule, talking about guitars and music. I suppose what I should do is I'll just get the comments up. If we got anybody here hanging out with us, it's just you and I at the moment, brother. So that's fine. We'll continue the show because, like I was saying to you before, when we went live, we often have a few people hanging out with us on replay. So
it's cool.
I suppose I should let folks know how I came across what you do, Jonathan. So, like a lot of people, we waste time on YouTube. Yes. And I was watching a clip, and you were on a show talking about guitars, talking about Robert Johnson, you know, yes, and the 1930s blues. I thought, wow, this is fantastic. This is brilliant. You were so knowledgeable. You had the guitars, and I thought, I got to get this guy on the channel, Jonathan.
Yes, I've got the guitars, and I have become obsessed enough to have the knowledge, and it's a pleasure to be here.
Tell us how it started. This passion and love of playing the blues. I've seen a lot of clips of you playing, so obviously, you know, you're a player as well as a fan.
Yeah.
Tell us how this started, please, Jonathan.
Well, when I started playing guitar, about 13, and grew up with guitars. My dad knew like a million Neil Young and Bob Dylan introductions. Grew up in mountains around. Always high quality guitars with my dad, always like Martins and stuff when he could. So grew up around it. I think I discovered the blue. First of all, like Hendrix was the reason I picked up a guitar. I listened to Live at Woodstock, and I was like, wow. And I was like blown away by it. And I was like, I want to do this. I want to learn this. So started having lessons with the local guitarist called Ray Williams, known as Taff Williams. Was in the London scene in the 60s of the band called Eyes of Blue. Had lessons of him for a couple of years, and got to know, like, we used to do like Blues Breakers stuff. It was more when I was more electric, playing more electric because I'm strictly acoustic now.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and then to Hendrix, then I followed the trail back, and as I could done Clapton and Blues Breakers, and rambling on my minds on Blues Breakers. I was like, oh, that's by a guy called Robert Johnson. And then, like, I was listening to more the electric 60s stuff. Like Peter Green is my favorite electric player. Like Peter Green is like just the feel he has. It just blew me away. But then to follow the trail back to, you know, people like Howlin' Wolf, and then trail back to people like Robert Johnson and then Charlie Patton and Sunhouse. And then it just hooked me then. I was like, oh, this sounds so different. It's like the Wild West of popular music, isn't it? The early blues days.
Look, I'm chuckling because what you've just, you know, elaborated for us, Jonathan, is is a route that we've all been on ourselves. You
Yeah.
know, and when you hear somebody else discuss something that you know in depth yourself, it's remarkable. We were just talking, folks, before we went live. You know, our love for Eric Clapton and Keith Richards, because right from the word go, these guys, right from the word go, said, "Don't listen to us. Go and listen to Robert Johnson." You know, they were saying that right from the word go, Jonathan, and I'm going, wow. Because if it wasn't for these guys saying that, I wouldn't have gone back. I wouldn't have been listening to Robert Johnson.
No, that's the thing. It's especially, and even for like the artists who are still alive in the 60s, people like Keith Richards and the Rolling Stones insisting like Howlin' Wolf go on after them on American TV shows and stuff like that. You know, it's like always made sure they had the headline billings, and they always give their dues to the old guys.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point, and we've got one of those clips up on our channel, Jonathan, where it's at Shindig, and they're talking.
One.
Yeah, it's a famous clip, and they're talking to Mick, and Brian Jones kind of interrupts the guy and says, "Look, you know, how about we just shut up and we sit down and we just get Howlin' Wolf on."
Ain't it the truth? Ain't it the truth?
Look, I've got to do a couple of shout outs. We've got another Welshman in the chat. He's one of the co-hosts on the channel, Simon Williams. He's wishing us well. Good to see you, the Rock Professor. We've got Phil in the chat hanging out with us, and also Jimmy Ray Hawkins. So we've got a few people catching up with us.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
At least live. So when you discovered Robert Johnson, what was it about the music, Robert Johnson's music, that sold the deal for you?
Well, when I first listened to him, it was like a compilation of early blues artists. Because this was just before the time of like streaming and YouTube, where I still had to go to CD shops and find CDs. And obviously his headline song on these things is always "Sweet Home Chicago," and it's quite like obviously a lot of what the blues that comes after and the rock is built upon is that like shuffle beat. It's just something, and then that hooked me a bit, and he sounds different to everybody else. Nobody quite sounds like Robert Johnson, you know, like the feel and the atmosphere in his songs. Like, you know, he embraces the gaps in between notes sometimes that we tend to fill. And like Robert Johnson's all about those hanging notes and stuff, and it just hooked me a bit. And then obviously you listen to Crossroad Blues, because I wouldn't have known Island and the deeper cuts then. But it's such a... He's a ridiculously good guitarist. You know, I've spent like 10, 15 years chasing after him, and I'm nowhere near it. But he's also his writing. His writing is like first class. Like, he's trying to write songs. He's using like analogies. He's using lyrical tools that other people weren't really using back then as well. It just, the whole atmosphere of his music is just completely like, there's nothing, not a dud, like, you know.
So I just want to continue on this path that you've just put us on about his musicality, the music, and also his writing, because I think this is a fascinating thing for us to tap into a little bit more. A few years ago, I got this book here, Escaping the Delta, and I got this in 2014, and I read this in conjunction with listening to the music, and I have to tell you, getting the background, Jonathan, we always knew a little bit about Robert, didn't we? You know, about going to the crossroads, selling his soul, dying, or being poisoned, you know, You know, and that story was always cool. You know, the
Yeah.
backstory is always fascinating. But then to go and sort of read something like this and go, oh my gosh, this guy was phenomenal. The guy was a
Yeah.
genius.
Like there's loads of good interviews with Johnny Shines who travelled around with him, and like first of all, his main goal is to like one of his things he always says is about the Crossroads deal is like no, like just debunking that. Is like no, you're just really good. Like and and like one of the things he says in one of the interviews as well is that he says to the interviewer like we could be having a conversation with Robert just like we are now, and the radio will be on, or somebody played something on the jukebox.
Yeah.
And then he'd play it the next night. And he said, I knew he was playing chords that he didn't know. He just had this innate ability, which I bet we all wish we had, where he just knew. He practiced so much and he traveled around so much. And obviously, like, you eat by playing music if you're a musician back then. So there's a pressure to it where he could just pull something out. It's like, not, it's rare, like, you know?
There was something. There's a couple of fascinating points, obviously, in this book. So there, one point that really blew me away, Jonathan, was the discussion that Robert wasn't just playing in juke joints.
No.
You know, these guys were playing at white church. They were playing country music. They were playing, you know, at white folks' weddings, at churches.
Yeah.
These guys were playing a lot of different types of music, Jonathan.
Yeah, they were playing like polka music, like Polish music. They were playing like loads of stuff. Like there's another book which I'm going to pull out now, which is this one, Up Jumped the Devil, Bruce going forth.
Hold on, I'm just going to present you so that people can see that if they want to. Thank you. Yep.
This is like a trail of like just about 50 years researching this, and it's a very good like outline of his life. Like they travelled here on this date, but like they were playing, as you said, they were playing weddings, they were playing anywhere people would pay them, and they're playing a Bing Crosby songs. His favourite artist, according to another book, then,
yes,
by this stepsister, Annie Anderson. It's obviously got the new photo.
Yeah.
It's like one of his favorite songs to do was Tumbling Tumbleweeds, and like it's just like cowboy songs and stuff like that. And he used to play the kids in his neighborhood and stuff like that. It's just mad because this myth has built up of him so much of like this mysterious thing. But it's interesting. The two books give like two halves of him. The Bruce Cornforth book, Up Jump the Devil, gives a like overview of his working life through the people that knew him, like Johnny Shines, and research that Mac McCormack had done. Whereas the book by his stepsister obviously gives you like Robert's personality a bit more, and because obviously she knew him, she was 12 when he died, so like how much she would know of his traveling life would probably be, I'm not sure, but more than me. But it gives Robert as the person, like, you know, like the person in the family house, which is like an angle I thought we'd never see.
Fascinating. So what I'll do, folks, if you're interested in getting those books, obviously Jonathan recommends them. I'll attach some links here in the description to make it easy for you. I do a 5-minute book review segment on the channel, Jonathan. So if you ever wanted, if you had 5 minutes and you wanted to record a 5-minute review on some of those books and send it to me, and we'd love to put it up on the channel, and then obviously with links back to your social media links.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm happy to do that.
Fantastic, because this is what we want to do here on our channel. It's, you know, have this collaboration. So I've got a couple of other questions for you then. That's just coming to my mind that I haven't prepared because of the songwriting and this music thing. So do you think Robert was pitch perfect? Was he did he know notes? He must have been pretty close to it.
I don't know. There's no way of knowing really, like without.
the
Like
only
one of
reason
his
why.
songs is that they slightly during the recording sessions you can hear him tuning and the pitches
Correct.
ever go up slightly.
Yes.
So he's either tuning to himself and he's got relative pitch, but then
Oh,
just
okay.
like an innate like ability to just play anything and know where it is on the guitar. But then like I don't know. I'd love to know.
And that, well, the only reason why I'm asking you, because I don't know either, is because you know, when you consider the songs that he recorded in Texas, a lot of those songs were all in different tunings, you
Yeah.
know, and so he didn't have an entourage of guitar techs behind him passing him guitars like you and I do today when we go and
Yeah.
perform. You know, he's
Yeah.
obviously. Yeah, right.
Indeed.
He's obviously tuning in between the songs.
Yeah. 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 It's and like one of the sessions, I can't remember which one. I think it's the San Antonio sessions. It's so warm they've got like ice blocks or like fans and stuff in between the takes. So that must have been affecting because especially a little because like this my model guitar here is the model he's holding, same model he's holding there. It's a Kalamazoo KG14. There's the headstock from about 1936.
Okay,
But like
that's a beautiful guitar. Now I've got some questions that I want to ask you. Is that okay?
yeah, that's fine. It's fine.
Okay, so and I haven't had a decent answer from people. I've been asking this on various Facebook groups. So
Yeah.
so 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 I love bluegrass. I love country music, and
Mm-hmm.
I know that a lot of bluegrass players were playing Martin guitars. Now,
Yeah.
Martin guitars have never been cheap, Jonathan, at
No.
any period of history. Okay, they
No.
were never a cheap guitar.
No. They were
So
quite.
yeah, they were expensive.
Yeah.
So that guitar that you've got
Mm-hmm.
back in the 30s when Robert was playing it, what level of price point would that guitar have been?
It'd been relatively cheap. Kalamazoo, Gibson invented the Kalamazoo. It was like the world's first budget brand when they were like in the
Okay.
great, like they were making like toys and stuff to get by during the Depression or like the 20s at least. So they invented this in the 30s. They invented this like cheap. It's like a neck without a truss rod, and it's like cheapish wood. Um,
Yeah,
so it'd be relatively cheap. Like as
yeah,
a story, Johnny Shine says. I can't remember what highway they're on, but they lose their guitars in a hotel fire. Like the hotel they're staying in burns, and they're like, "Oh, our guitars are there," and they're a bit like, "Well, we're done for. We haven't got guitars." I'm paraphrasing this massively, but then Robert whips out a harmonica out of his pocket, and they play on the side of the street, and they make enough money then to go buy one of these, a Kalamazoo, and like I can't remember where Johnny Shines buys a Stella or something, another cheapish brand. But yeah, it's enough. Like not disposable guitars, but you could replace them in a pinch probably. Whereas the Gibson would have been more that I got next to me here would have been more pricier than this. This is like a budget brand, but I've never played a guitar nice off a slide. Just
okay. That
something about it resonates with slide.
thank you for answering that, because I always
Mm-hmm.
suspected that, because I thought that these guys, because they travelled obviously from venue to venue, so and these guitars were being played probably every night, so the idea that they could have been using inexpensive guitars makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, like the studio photo of him with the Gibson L1 might have been
Yeah.
his guitar, and he might have splashed out and got a fancy guitar if he'd made enough money. I don't know. They probably would have bought. I know his tour because they were winning nationals at the time as well, which wouldn't have been they wouldn't be terribly cheap, but more durable probably than a wooden guitar. So he'd probably take that risk. But yeah, it makes sense to traveling around, like jumping on the back of trains.
Yeah.
They're gonna get guitars that are cheaper to maintain than a Martin. Like, gosh, struggle to get Martin now.
Yeah. Yeah, I always think it's fascinating, that these guys, were using these guitars, daily, every evening.
Mhm.
That guitar that you've got there, is that the guitar that they used for that famous recording in Texas, in San Antonio? Was it that guitar?
I don't know. Like in the San Antonio one, he turns up at the sessions and gets done for vagrancy because there's like a
Mm.
festival or something. And it goes into detail in Bruce Cohen books about what festival was on, why they wanted people off the street. So the policeman smashed up his guitar and put him in jail. And then they had to come get him, and they had to borrow a guitar for the first session. So and then he had to get like I don't know. We smashed up his guitar he turned up with. What guitar that was, I don't know. Did he buy a Kalamazoo? We have no idea. Nobody thought to ask any of the engineers in the 60s when his when they brought out the Robert Johnson LP that inspired so many people. What guitars did he use? That's the one.
That album. So that's fascinating. So he would have obviously gone to get a guitar. He wouldn't have turned up at the hotel without a guitar. He would have turned up
No.
with the guitar.
Yeah, we would have turned up. Because I think they bailed him out, and then I might be wrong. They bailed him out because it's been a while since I read this book, and then they put him in like a boarding house kind of a thing, and then he rung up he was a British engineer actually. I forget his name, but Don Law. He rings him up. He's in the hotel he's at, and asks him for like a nickel to go with this woman. So like they're obviously in constant like conversation. Like, you need to be here at this time, Robert. Like, so you stay here now, and like so I don't know. They turned up and said, "Look, I haven't got a guitar." Cops have smashed it up, and they find a guitar because there's acts. It's like a conveyor belt of acts in this. So they're recording
Wow.
in these hotel rooms, and it's just like a conveyor. It's like a Mexican band that records after him. And before him, there's like a country band. So it's like maybe they just went to one of those artists and go, "Can we borrow a guitar for a session?" Because he only records one song after he gets taken out of jail on that day, and that is Terraplane, I think. I'm so rusty. And then
Yep.
presumably, I don't know, they must have found a way to get a guitar after that then for the rest of the sessions.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that
Yeah.
that was that was an event that happened before that
Yeah.
famous.
I guess it's again, if I get any of the details wrong, please let me know, people in chat, because I'm a bit rusty. I'm a bit rusty with all of this.
And folks, this is not what we planned, but it's it's great. It's fantastic to talk about Robert Johnson because he's inspired so many people. Obviously, Clapton many times. The Rolling Stones version of "Love in Vain's" one of the great versions of it. Do you have a favourite or a couple of favourites of Robert Johnson's songs?
I love my favorite song is probably "Preaching Devils Up Jump the Blues" because it's wild. It's like him at his it's genius, I think, because it's like I tried to perform that when I used to gig, and I've got a gig next month actually. But it's a bit like fingertips stuff, like holding on by your fingertips. It's just like, and
Wow.
I'm doing like an amalgamated version of it. I'm not but it's just the stuff he does, and just this. So the feel, it's just mad. But yeah, it's my favorite. "Love in Vain" is such a brilliant song, such a well written song, and like it's like just all of his stuff. It's funny how blues has changed over the years, because from "Kind Hearted Woman Blues" take 1 and take 2, in the first one he puts his only solo in, and then he runs out of time to put all the verses he wanted in, so he has to like cut it a bit short. So then in the second take, he gets rid of the solo to put more verses in. And it's like, that's the opposite of what like the blues is now, isn't it? It's like a vehicle for solos, which is good in itself. But it's just funny, the origin is like does one solo. Like it doesn't need to do solos. It's crazy stuff he's doing with guitar. But yeah, so I love Kind Hearted Woman as well.
That's a good point, Jonathan, because it was always about telling stories, a little bit like the country music. You know, the hillbilly music was always about telling the story. The idea of having a solo break and musicianship and being a flashy guitar player and doing a break came when it became more of a show business, when it became more of a show. And I get that.
Yeah, because they used to cut heads and stuff like in the street, but that was like a particular event. And then but they were playing at dances mostly. They were hired to play there to make people dance. That's what they were paid to do. Like they recorded blues because they were paid to record blues, but they played, like as you said earlier, wild variety of stuff, which I think their Red Hot shows like a little glimpse into that. Like it's like less like his bigger repertoire.
Yeah. Fantastic. So obviously, you know, Robert Johnson started it for a lot of guys. You know, we had a lot of other black guys that continued that legacy. Son House, you know, the list is endless of these guys. Are there any other musicians that inspired you besides Robert?
Well, yeah, like growing up, my dad was like a massive Neil Young fan and Bob Dylan, so I grew up around them. Peter Green, I love Peter Green. He's my favorite. I used to play electric more, but like Peter Green, I can always just sit there and listen to. He's so tasteful in everything. Yeah, like I got Clapton. Like a Blues Breaker album specifically, and like that's my favorite Clapton thing. BB King, like it's a lot of artists. Johnny Shines is very good. Like I enjoy listening to. He's a very good player. Traveled Under Robert. Honeyboy Edwards, I got to see in Swansea of all places in like the early 2000s. Yeah, I got to see him. He was like 87 or something. Yeah, I got to see him play before I started playing all this stuff. But that was fascinating. This was mad. It was mad. But I'm glad I got to do it now. But thing with people of that era, they were tied because the Robert Johnson's like the superstar of that era, pretty much, with like Muddy Waters and stuff like that. Like anybody era, all the players. There's some fascinating like acoustic players like Skip James and the Reverend Gary Davis, and like I used to be in a jug band as well. So even like a lot of the stuff like that is fascinating, but it all gets like, I don't know, it overshadows it a bit. But like Skip James is a fantastic player. It's like, again, a player who's hard to follow his train of thought when he's doing stuff. You know, it's like a different world.
So you gave up the electric guitar to pursue this purest form of blues.
Yeah.
You know, devoting time, obviously, to study Robert Johnson, to learn to play all his songs. Now, when you play Robert Johnson's songs with your guitar, are you playing it as accurately as he did it, or are you doing it your way? Because we all know that there's more than one way to play a song, Jonathan.
Like,
so
try and sing somewhere in the middle, because you can't play things note for note for like him. It would drive you mad and break your fingers. Because like the stuff he used to do. But I try and get it as accurately as I can, allowing for just performance. Everything's different every time you play a song is different, isn't it? So allowing for like some room to make it your own a bit without it becoming something different.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you've got a gig coming up. We'd love to do anything on our channel to promote any gigs or any projects or ventures that you're doing, Jonathan. So flick us any of those links. So do you do you play regularly? Is it something that you
I
try to
used
do?
to. I used to. Like this gig coming up next month's probably my first one in about 2 years, actually. UK is a weird place at the moment. Like the blues scene, it's quite a struggle to get a booking doing this stuff. Like I thought when I first started out doing like Robert Johnson's stuff on a Kalamazoo, and then the other guitar I got here is a 1926 Gibson L1. There's the headstock.
Wow.
Let me put the Kalamazoo down. Like I originally went into it doing Robert Johnson's stuff on the same model guitars from the same era. Thought that would be a selling point, but I don't know. It's especially post COVID. There's a lot of venues we used to play. I used to be in a jug band called the Rumble Strutters. Used to play a lot of like blues and jazz and folk clubs and festivals and things like that. Places in Camden or whatever. A lot of the venues we used to play and festivals just don't exist anymore. It's so it's a weird place to come out, but like so there are a few good things around in my area, like Tenby Blues Festival, and there's the Mid Wales Blues Club, but there's not a lot of venues for this kind of music, so it's
that's a shame. It's a shame, isn't it? Yeah, it's a shame that you can't do that live, because playing music live is always the best experience. But the second best option we have, obviously, to continue this tradition and this music that we love is social media, Jonathan. You know, so we have to take advantage of that. But it's sad that that all live bands are finding it difficult to get gigs. Not just obviously blues musicians. I understand it's people just don't want to go through that process, which is sad, because it's always, and it should always be, about the live music.
Yeah, definitely. Live music is vital.
So tell us about that Gibson that you got. I'm going to present you.
Yeah, so this is a 1926 Gibson L1. It's it's a transition model, because it's up until then they had arch tops, but when they turned it to this Gibson's first flat top, they used up all the arch top backs on the first couple of runs, so it's this beautiful like carved back. Had some work done on it just to preserve it more than anything. So it's 1926, and it came when I imported it with the original case.
Wow,
which is mad. I imported it from America 10 years ago now, and I gigged it up until recently, until last, say, 5-6 years. It was a gigging guitar with me until a luthier told me off.
So we love guitars and gear on this channel, Jonathan. So are you fussy with your strings? Is there any kind of string brand that you have to use on these antique? Can I say antique? Vintage guitars?
Well, this is 97, so it's close enough to being an antique.
Okay.
So I use recommended to me when I went to go see Ralph McTell, and I was signing CDs after my dad, and we mentioned I was buying the Kalamazoo, and he told me about this guitar brand called New Tone, which do low tension strings that keep the same kind of pitch and everything, but they just don't put much pressure on these necks you can't adjust. I tend to use them on the old guitars just because I don't want the necks to go. Not that they'd probably be all right, but I just rather take the chance. I did have a copy of this made by a luthier called Richard Mayrick in South Wales, who made but it was like flat back and sides. It's more like a gigging workhorse guitar with the same feel of this. So on that, I just tend to use 12s, anything I can get at the time, really, because that's got an adjustable truss rod and everything. This is a truss rod, but you can't adjust it. So if the neck starts to go, it's going to be a lot of work. So the new toned, low tension, like vintage guitar strings, that's what I tend to use on the old ones, just to peace of mind.
Okay, and folks, if you're watching this and you're interested in finding out those strings that Jonathan's talking about, I'm sure he'll send me a link
Oh yeah,
to those strings so that you can check them out yourself. So, are you finger picking all the time, or do you use a pick, Jonathan?
I use a metal thumb pick,
Ah, okay.
which I don't know. It just has like when you do it like with the Johnson, it just has the chunkiness to dig in all of the like downbeats. Say if I was doing like a Mississippi John Hurt thing, I would just use my finger picking without anything. But no, I tend if I'm using a pick, it's the thumb pick. Metal thumb pick is a Dunlop thing.
Ah, okay. Yeah. I when I was learning to play Earl Scruggs style banjo, I was using those thumb picks and the finger picks, and it takes a while to get used to. I taught myself a year ago when I got my Gretsch. I taught myself
Oh, yeah.
to do rockabilly style.
Oh yeah.
Hybrid picking, because I'm just a guitar player. I'm just a rhythm guitar player. So I taught myself how to hybrid, and it was interesting because a lot of guys were using thumb picks, and I tried using a thumb pick, but I couldn't use a thumb pick because the pick was getting in the way. I'd have to poke my thumb out more, and it just didn't work for me.
Yeah, totally. I get it. Yeah, I think it's with the Johnson stuff because you got to have that constant like downbeat. That's how we. It's
So,
I found the thumb pick is kind of like essential just to get that because I'm on nails just to get that chunky rhythm going.
so
And
what would he have been using? Nails or a thumb pick too?
um, they asked Johnny Shines what type of like finger picks they used, and they said metal ones. So I presume that would involve one of these.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and yeah, so that's what I kind of based it on. There's not a lot to go on with the photos they've got. But yeah, I tend to do. I can't remember what interview it is. We did mention Johnny Shines did mention that in an interview I read that they use metal finger picks.
Oh, fantastic.
But presumably it's whatever they could get at the time as well.
I'm just trying to look for one. I thought I had one because I'm going to, obviously, when you and I finish, I'm going to go out and I'm going to try and channel my Robert Johnson. But
Yeah,
as usual, all I can find, because all I can find is a plastic one. I've got a metal one here somewhere.
I used to use plastic ones. They kept on snapping in the join all the time. So with all this stuff, so it's a bit heavy-handed. I am so. But I played with I had the privilege of playing with Spencer Davis in Swansea because he's a Swansea boy where I'm from. In a small cafe in Swansea, Spencer Davis of the Spencer Davis Group, and he mentioned when I was talking about the kind of style I was playing. He said he used to use these metal thumb picks as well when he used to play his 12-string stuff with the band. Because he was a blues, he was into the blues before it became all pop. Like he was a blues band. He used to go off doing like solo blues stuff, pretty similar to what I was doing in the early days, and that's how he came across Steve Winwood and people like that.
Wow. Because yeah, because he kind of discovered Steve, didn't he? Stevie Wood, that's fascinating. So he was playing in these small venues before he formed Spencer Davies and became this like a pop star.
Yeah, he was playing like Lead Belly and all stuff like that. Because it's a video on YouTube of the Spencer Davis band playing Midnight Special and stuff like that. But it's he's playing like all the old blues stuff. That was his thing. That was his bag before they found Steve Winwood, and they went, oh.
What is it about English guys, British guys, Welsh guys, guys from your part of the world, and American blues music? It's a fascinating question. I love asking people this question.
I don't know, really. That's a good question. I don't really know. think there's a realness to especially the early blues stuff, but like American blues music, there's a realness and there's a, um, I know the ranging anything from like a Sunhouse song to like Howlin' Wolf, I don't know, like a Spoonful or something like that. The range from like humorous and like sultry to the more deeper stuff. I don't know, I think there's a realness that probably resonates with, especially like the more working class parts of the world over here.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's that authenticity, isn't it? It
Yeah,
resonates. Music can't mean anything if it's not having an effect on you in your life. That's my opinion. And if it has an effect on you in your life, it's kind of mirroring or talking about something that you're the existence that you have at that time. And if you can find that in lyrics and in some music, because I tell people this. I tell people this all the time who tell me that they love the blues and they love Robert Johnson. I say, go and listen, not just to one or two songs. You go and listen to the 20. How many songs that Columbia set
oh
that
yeah,
came
just
out?
yeah, it's like 29 songs it is with different takes.
Go and listen to that, and your life will be different. What from
Mm,
the not just one or two songs. You go and listen to the whole lot, and it's almost like a religious experience.
yeah.
For a lot of us to go and do that, and it's kind of like I remember one guy telling me who I used to work with, and he said he did that with Robert Johnson, and then he was getting into Sun House, and he said, "Oh my gosh, Sun House, that was kind of scary."
Mm, yeah, yeah. Sunhouse. Yeah, Sunhouse is so I my yeah Sunhouse. I met a few people who watched him. My first ever gig I ever got given was the ragtime guitarist called John James. He's a
Mm,
fantastic guitarist. So
mm.
my thing was it was like the old folk club setting. We did 45 minutes. I did half hour in the middle, and he did 45 minutes. And there's a
Wow.
rawness to the Sun House, but he said, "Oh, I went to watch Sun House, but or he's talking about Sun House, and he's saying like." Is raw, but like Johnson was a musician. You can tell he was a musician, and that's there's funny like different people pick up on different things. To him, Sunhouse was too raw and just,
Yes.
especially when they found him in the '60s, he had a lot of issues, Sunhouse and stuff, and he couldn't play the same way. But
Yes.
like Johnson, like musicians can tell, oh, he knows what he's doing. Like not that Johnson, not that Sunhouse didn't know what he was doing, but it's a lot more raw and power. It's the center of Sunhouse's music, and
Uh,
yeah, it
that
hits
that
different people.
that's a good point, Jonathan, because I have had other people say to me, that Sun House kind of played up to that rawness a little bit
Mm,
too in the '60s,
yeah.
which kind of makes sense as well. We've got a couple of people in the chat we should do a shout out to who are very, very good friends of the channel, if that's okay, Jonathan. We've got Tim
Yeah,
Thomas in here. Good to see you, brother, and also Holly Lewis, and she's got, like a lot of people around the world, we're either English, Scottish, Irish, or Welsh, and she's saying that she's got Welsh heritage. So, um, yeah, it's fantastic. Look, I think it's fascinating, isn't it? Meeting someone like you, Jonathan, that has this love and this deep respect and reverence for this music, and you're continuing. Sorry, I'll start again. Continuing it today, especially with your own music. Now, now, do you write? Do you write your own songs that's inspired by this kind of music?
yeah. I write stuff. The blues stuff, I'm more like careful with writing because I do have a CD. I have a CD that I recorded a while ago, 6, 7, 8 years. And it's just fallen out. The Tangle Web. The track listing on this is very much like the classics I enjoy playing, but then the title song is one I've written myself in the style of like a Skip Jamesy kind of like Devil Got My Woman kind of a thing, but like my own trying to, but like I'm more selective with the blues stuff. There's a few I've written. That's the only one that's been released so far. But I'm more careful writing because there's a lot of things. So I've got EP of more like fingerpicky, Bert Yancey kind of like stuff, which isn't blues. Because I don't know, with the blues, I just try and be more careful with it, especially like the history of it all and everything. It's got to be good.
Fantastic. And again, I have to remind you too, Jonathan, if you want to send us links to that after the show, and I can put that in the description, so folks that are here in the chat now or watching, I encourage you, please, to go and support Jonathan, folks. If you're coming back and watching the show, to go and support him, because obviously the love and reverence for this music is clear and evident for us to see, Jonathan, and I find that remarkable.
Thank you.
So I suppose the next set of questions, that we're going to talk about, obviously, you've got your gig coming up. Do you have any plans with your music, that you want to do? Is it something that you could see yourself doing more full-time-ish? Is that something that you want to do? Maybe go on a tour or get picked up or get discovered? Is this and I mean that sincerely, because, people are getting discovered all the time.
It would be nice to do it more. Just where I am there's not a lot of outlet for it really. Like we used to talk. We used to gig quite a lot of my old it's like a jug band called the Rumble Strutters. Used to do like Memphis Shakes, Mississippi, Memphis jug band stuff, and like Lead Belly and the more like stuff the bluesmen would have played at parties, kind of a thing. We used to gig quite extensively in the UK. Used to be my part-time job then.
Okay.
It's something I would like to go back to on my own, doing this blues stuff eventually. I got 3 small children at the moment, and it's me going off, right, see you, I'm going to London for the weekend or whatever, would be a bit, I don't think that would be viewed favourably. And it wouldn't be fair. So eventually I'd like to get back and do more.
Okay.
The gig next month is quite interesting. It's in a little very good vinyl record store in Clashley, called the Second 45, and it's going to be totally acoustic, no microphones, which is how I prefer to play. It's a small little room, and I got a harmonica player called Ted Crook with me, who's been around for a while in the scene as a really good harp player. So yeah,
wow.
Cool. So that'll be a good one if anybody's in South Wales. Wants to come along.
So obviously you don't have any pickups, any acoustic pickups in your guitars. Will you be?
No, not these ones. In the replica I had built of this, where a guy called Richard Mayrick, there is like a plug-in for that, just because a lot of festivals kind of require it. But these, no, I'd get hunted down, I think, if I put stuff in this. It's just I do have clip-on mics I use sometimes, or just a microphone in front.
Oh wow.
It's kind of a lost art or lost sound, guys. But then I don't, like, when I used to gig it more, like the sound men used to panic, but then I used to go, but I don't need like a fallback because I can hear myself, and they just go. So it's like a trade-off. Like you gotta put a microphone in front of this and manage it, but I don't need to have the fallback at all. Like because I can hear myself, I am me. So it does like the trade-off I used to do with them. Then it's like, don't worry about the monitors. Just get the guitar sounding good because I can hear myself.
So when you pick up your guitar and you play, do you have a set kind of system that you do when you're playing, when you're practicing, or do you just play whatever comes to you? And are you playing every day? Are you one of those guys that have to?
I used to play every day. I'm not so much now. I got a 7-week-old at the moment, so it's 8-week-old, so it's a bit. Life's been turned upside down a bit the last couple of months. I will have a view to learn songs. So like when I tried to learn preaching blues to a point where I could perform it up to the devil, I must have
Yeah.
spent a month of my life just playing that and trying to get
Okay.
the little nuances, enough of the little nuances to be recognized as that. If like I got the gig now next October 14th, I'll probably practice the set list, just to blow the dust off, so to speak, because it's been a while. But no, I tend to have a view like I would like to learn this song, I'd like to learn that song, and I'd like to play in this style, like I'd like to learn the more Mississippi John Hurt stuff. So then I practice stuff around that, so to speak.
Fantastic. Can you do us a favour? We'd love to get you back after you've had your gig, and taking into account obviously a young family. But I'm sure between you and I, we can organise a time. We'd love to get you back, and you can tell us how the gig went, and
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm up for that.
And we might be able to get, if we organise it, we might be able to get the rock professor Simon Williams in here, and I'm sure he'll have a set of questions for you. But what I want you to do for me, Jonathan, is I'd love you to throw me the venue and the information and the details on the gig, because we've got some Facebook groups and we'd love to help promote the gig. That's the least we can do. So if you can get
thank
that
you very
to
much.
us.
Yeah, I'll send you that. And I'm probably going to
Yeah.
film it as well, and I think the venue live stream it, but I'm going to try and film it myself as well. So I'll once I post that, I'll send that to you as well.
Oh wow! Well, again, we would love to help support. Getting people to your channel.
Thank you, though.
To watch that, because obviously it's about you building up your own social media base as well. That's the least we can do. Have you guys in the chat got any questions that you want to ask Jonathan before we wind things up? Because we don't want to take too much of his time, because he's got family commitments he's got to he's got to get to. But okay, so Holly's saying that she's going to sub to your channel.
Thank you very much.
And while she's mentioning that, I want to remind people too, please, to sub to Holly's channel as well. She wants to build up her channel as well. So
I'll go sub after this now.
Yeah. And look, and that's the least we can do here on the channel. Is just ask people to sub. Doesn't cost anybody a thing to sub to a channel, Jonathan.
No, nothing.
What I'm going to do with you, though, with your channel later, is on our channels page, we've got our friends up there and their channels, and we'll put your channel up there too.
You.
Every show that we do, we ask people to go and please subscribe to our friends. Are you active on your YouTube channel?
Not as much as I'd like to be. I'm planning to do more in the next couple of months. There was a period I was trying to do like a Robert Johnson song a month. But then, kids and stuff. And I've lost my music room recently. So my stepmother moving in. So I've had to rejig everything. So now I'm in a little setup. I'm planning to do more if I can.
I encourage people to go and have a look at Jonathan's channel, folks. You'll find some amazing stuff there. The authenticity and the reverence that he approaches the music that we all love, by Robert Johnson and these guys that we've spent the last hour talking about. It's just fascinating. And I think it's one of the credit, isn't it, of the music that we love. It's just a global thing. It's been happening.
Oh, yeah.
Happening in the UK since the 1960s. Can you tell the folks the story about your guitar that you were telling me in the green room?
So I originally bought the Kalamazoo.
Hey, Brad.
The Kalamazoo. I bought this guitar first. I had a relationship go bad, as so many Robert Johnson songs are, and I used the money we'd saved for a wedding to buy this. And then from the same dealer then, but I'd eyed this guitar, but it was slightly out of my range. And at the time I was living at home and my dad could save. And he encouraged me to buy all the guitars I could before I got married and settled down, which was the best advice I ever had. And then the dealer, so I rang up the dealer then, who was based in Texas, I believe, or Florida. He flitted around the America a bit. He asked me, why do you want to buy this? First of all, he did quiz me about that guitar. What kind of style did I play? As if I had to pass a test. Like you'd had to like pass this and it like test to this quizzing. Why do you want to play this? What kind of style do you want to play? So I got Blind Blake and stuff like this. This is why I'm buying this. I'm going to try and learn Blind Blake stuff, and there's obviously the Robert Johnson stuff. Because he said I wouldn't send this guitar to like Asia or other parts of the world, but because the British guys there, Claptons, the Peter Greens, the Keith Richards of the world, had shown America the blues, basically. He said, because the British guys showed us our own music, he's happy to export this to the UK for me then. So I passed the test and it ended up in my hands.
I think that's a fascinating story, but it's also true, and it's a credit to the guy for him to acknowledge that, that the British guys and girls, in a way, kind of saved the blues, because it was heading down, it was just going to be like a lounge kind of music, and a casino kind of, that's where it was heading. And these British cats knocked on the door and said, hey, here we are. Yeah.
And the other British guitarist I should get mentioned is Joanne Kelly. Like, what a guitarist! Especially in this kind of like acoustic blues kind of like world. She's a phenomenal guitarist. And I met a few people who met her, and it was just like saying how amazing she was. So, and it's that authenticity thing again, isn't it? It's an authenticness that rings true with no matter who you are with the blues.
Awesome. I agree. Folks, thank you very much for hanging out with us and spending some time. It was a pleasure having some folks here in the chat. And I always have to acknowledge the people, Jonathan, that are going to watch us on replay. So if you've got to the 58-minute mark here on this show and you've enjoyed hanging out with Jonathan and I, again, I invite you please to go and subscribe to all the social media links that he'll give me soon. And that if you be patient with me, I'll edit in the next couple of hours. I'll edit all that in the description. There is a description. There is a link at the moment already in the description, but Jonathan will make sure that he sends me everything else.
Yeah, I'll send you everything
that we can do. Jonathan, we look forward, brother, for you to come back and do part 2. We'll get the Rock Professor on. And you can fill us in on the gig and let us know how the gig went.
Yes, that'd be great. I'd gladly come on again. Thanks for having me, and again, thanks for watching, everybody.
No problem. We've got Brad Cook in the chat as well. Brad is one of our co-hosts as well. Brad's based in Australia, and he's saying hi to you as well, Jonathan. So. He's going to go back. He's out at the moment. He's going to go back and rewatch the show.
Right.
If I present you, do you want to play a couple of licks for us before we end the show?
Sure. Let me. Yeah, that's fine. Let me get the Kalamazoo out. I'll show some of like Robert's signature lick.
All right. Would love to hear you.
then you'd also have like shuffly things like every time I'm walking down the street, you know, down on me, so breaking down. So yeah, so there's a lot of but my favorite thing he does is this like I don't know how to describe it. So it's like it's a lovely rundown. Yeah, so
Fascinating, yeah, mind-blowing and inspiring. So I know what I'm going to be doing for the next couple. I'm going to be listening to some Robert Johnson, and I'm going to be checking out Jonathan's YouTube channel, folks. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. Please subscribe to us. Subscribe to Jonathan. We'll see you guys soon. See you tomorrow when we're back with the Rock Professor and Brad ranking the tracks. Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Ooh.
See you, folks. Don't go anywhere, Jonathan. I'm just going to play the last video.
Yeah, of course.